Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Edwards, congratulations on your past service and on this new potential calling. I think building on what Senator Heinrich said about this being a rare public hearing for us, I think many of my constituents and my colleagues' constituents are often surprised to learn how much of a role the IC has in space. So could you maybe walk the public through how you think about the role of the IC in space versus, say, NASA, where there's collaboration, where there's duplicate efforts, where there's duplicate efforts that are necessary, and why? Can you just explain the IC's role in space?
Yeah, so reading my reading of Executive Order 12333, the NRO director is responsible for the development, for acquiring and operating space-based systems, for the collection of intelligence and information to ensure that the nation is safe. I think that's a different mission than NASA is responsible for. Although I think they may coordinate on things that are of mutual interest, but it's my understanding NASA does not collect intelligence.
So there's obviously platforms, and then there's the information that's gathered and the uses of that information. So I'm, like many on this committee, a champion of NRO, NGA, other IC agencies that have responsibilities on or touching on space. But obviously the technological developments that we're seeing happen in the private sector, and the chairman has been an effective and relentless advocate on this. Chairman Burr before him, Senator Blunt, have talked constantly about how much innovation we're seeing in the private sector. In your new responsibility, how would you look at whether or not the government is harnessing all of the greatest opportunities that exist that are often faster and cheaper in the private sector? The government is often great at building exquisite systems and getting exquisite imagery, but often in ways that are sort of biased toward current uses. And one of the things we see happening in the private sector is a bias toward non-consumption is often shattered when you end up with a sometimes lower quality, but lots cheaper use of a new commercial application. How would you approach the question of whether or not the agency is moving quickly enough to harness all the innovation of the American private sector?
Senator, again, thank you for your question. I think it's important, just being an acquisition professional in general, for an agency always to be looking at whether or not they can do it organically, or is it make more sense to go to the private sector. Oftentimes there's a balance there, and that's I think what you're getting at. And I think it's important that the agencies actually strike that balance to ensure, again, they are not wasting the taxpayer dollars, and they are again figuring out a way to ensure that they have the best capabilities fielded to ensure they're protecting, the United States. Where I think the IG can help, and if confirmed, where I would assist with that, is making sure that, again, the agencies or the agency, in this case NRO, make sure that it understands that the trade-offs that it's making with respect to organic versus non-organic, that they're doing it reasonably, and are taking into account all the things that are required to take into account when they're making that trade-off. I think that the IG's office can assist in that by making sure that, again, when we review those programs, they are effective and efficient in making those decisions.
Well, thank you. And I think the committee will look forward to working with you and trying to instill and ask the hard oversight questions about that urgency. We're nearly at my time, but I want to ask one question about your day job today. You currently serve as the Chief of Staff to the Principal Deputy at ODNI, and I'm curious as to your public reflections on how that bureaucracy, how the ODNI is functioning, and if there are places where it could be trimmed to be quicker and more nimble.
Senator, I think we should always look at our processes to make sure that, again, they are working effective and efficiently. I believe that, again, the ODNI is doing that.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Very diplomatic.